Hi there.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. What about you? How's the week been?
It's bloody cold.
Oh, it
Uh,
got cold?
yeah. We had some good weather on the weekend, but now it just turned dark and grey and cold.
Same week.
Hmm. Yeah.
It went from kind of decent to, sub 10 degrees now.
Well, okay, sub 10 is
Oh, it's
yeah.
worse for you?
No, it's I think it's over 10. Let me check. Um
My biggest gripe is, the shortening day.
yeah, no, we got 12 degrees, which is horrible enough.
Actually, wait, am I exaggerating? Let's see. I feel like it's hovering between.
Hi there.
Hello.
Well,
We're just complaining about the weather.
no, I lied. I mean, so, well, it's a 10-degree difference. It's like 6 degrees at its coldest and 16 at its warmest. And it's like thereabouts for the rest of the week.
Where are you based?
Toronto.
Okay.
Although I shouldn't be, well, no, London's like mild weather, right?
It's mild but wet.
Yeah, that's the part.
Wet. Yeah.
That's why everybody's indoors building platforms.
As they should be.
That's right. Uh, let's give it a few more minutes.
Okay.
But I was thinking that, as we run through things, top of mind for me is our experiment with recruiting, fleshing that out. What qualifies as how do we qualify that these folks worked on successful platforms, that they are platform responsible leaders? And then how do we reach out to them within like CNCF, the end user group, just within our broader network? Because if we can get those people and then we can get the builders on their teams, then we'll have both sides, like we'll have a more rounded picture within the context of like that, that platform that they've built, as opposed to finding builders separate from the leaders. I mean, that would be the ideal, I think. And then obviously, there's kicking that off as soon as possible, figuring out what qualification looks like and the details of that, and then the scripts themselves.
So you would say we do the whole recruiting just focused on leaders, and then over those leaders we go to builders, not do open recruitment for leaders and builders.
Well, that would be the ideal. I don't know how, I wonder if we'll meet the kind of quota of folks we want to talk to in that way.
But you're not aiming for loads, right? It was like eight to
I
10.
think I think if we can get 8 leaders and a few folks from their teams, so that brings us up to like whatever 20 something, 2 3 folks. I think that would be enough to get a pretty good picture. Like 8 gives us patterns, because this isn't meant to be like scientific rigor exhaustive, but more, let's say, on the scrappier product research side of things, where we learn like 80% of what we want to know, and then we can figure out what's next after that project. Is how I've been thinking about it. I don't know if anybody has a kind of a different take on what this could be or what they're thinking. So I mean, for me, that's like next, like making this more tangible. How do we qualify these people? How do we get at these people? Working through that. If we're aligned on the goals of the research, right? If that makes sense to everybody, then, and we know who the folks are, then we need to know how we get really focused on qualifying. How do we know they've built a successful platform? How do we know that they operate that way, right? We kind of need a sense of that at the outset before we recruit them. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of wasted interviews. I mean, wasted for the purposes of what we're trying to do here.
But then also like, what is successful,
Yeah, I mean that's the
right?
this is the thing. Like
Because one
how
person's success may not equal another person's success.
right are there, separate from domain context and the particularities of a company and like the platform they're building to run their business, what are there general qualifying criteria for what we think success looks like, right? Like the markers of success, which to us means that they're operating with some sort of product mindset. So
Yeah,
how do we,
it
sorry,
feels like if we looked at the platform maturity model, that the platforms work like the maturity model has the kind of aspects and
yeah,
like what good could look like. I think the idea of the model is not that every platform team should be like at the furthest right column of all of the aspects, but it's like an idea of kind of what good could look like. So it would be interesting if we could reflect on those things and be like, well, the platform working group thinks that these are sort of what good looks like, which includes product mindset, and therefore, if your platform has some of these aspects, we want to talk to you.
yeah.
But then,
And
then I guess we want to focus on those people that have stories to tell about success. But are we then biasing our selected folks? I don't know if it's like weird to be like, well, we don't want to talk to anyone that's
but
failed.
that,
I
that
don't know.
well, that's the first thing you said, which is how to read the maturity model. I agree with you. It's, it's a bunch of smart, experienced folks in a room putting that together. And so it's not like a completely exhaustive, here is yeah, if you have all of these checks in this column, then you are this, right? It's a guide.
Yeah.
And so, we use that as a guide for this as well, right? In terms of who the audience of the paper is, and then who are the folks we want to talk to, right? They're in the, let's say, scaled and beyond range of like, we're taking this seriously, whether it's a product manager or somebody else, somebody's thinking about this at a strategic level of how all this comes together to support the business and internal developers and other teams, and like how we prioritize around that and how we build around that. So maturity model is a guide, but it's going to be on us to kind of figure out like what the balance is of like not biasing ourselves too much with selection. It's not a perfect science, right? But I think we do need to figure out a way to qualify people that are actually thinking about this, holistically. Like they're looking at the platform as an enabler of the business and not just like we have to do these immediate, very concrete things to just like support a workflow or to like unblock a team. And it's these like ad hoc things. But that's still pretty vague. Even as I say it, that's like so vague. I think we all like at the gut feel level, we know it when we see it. I think we all know what we think a good platform is, but like we need to now break that down into like qualification of people we want to talk to. So
Have you one idea that occurs is
yeah,
speaking one measure that we think about, at least in Syntasso, is people who stand up on stage and talk about their platform are generally pretty proud of what they've done, right? So one idea is to maybe have a look through. I haven't had a look myself yet of like all of
good.
the content at KubeCon Chicago, and be like, okay, are any of those talks in Chicago end user stories of someone talking about what they've achieved with their platform? I mean, or even just as far as what they've achieved with Kubernetes, which could still be the basis for their platform. And if somebody's standing up on stage in Chicago to talk about what great success they've had, they might be worth people hitting up, right? Like I haven't actually gone through the content to see, and I know KubeCon does focus a lot more on tooling than use cases sometimes, or like user stories, but there could be a few people there. Like for me, that's one measure for success. Like, so when we're trying to think about how we drive success with our product, we're like, if we can get someone using our product and then standing on stage and talking about it, then we know we've done a good job. Because if they're proud to use it and talk about it, they've hopefully seen some success with it. So that might be one place. I mean, obviously there's our own networks of people that we know that we've.
Yeah, but that's a great call. I mean, if they've already thought about this, packaged this up, and aren't embarrassed to stand on stage and talk about it, good chance that they've built something that approximates a pretty successful plan in the realm of successful.
Yes, or at least they're proud of it.
Yeah,
It may
yeah,
not
yeah.
be what we judge as successful, but if they're proud enough to stand on stage and talk about it, then they probably think it's successful.
Well, this is going to be the interesting stuff behind the veneer of whatever they present out once we get into the interview, and we get to see like how did they get to what they get to got,
Yeah.
like they make these decisions, what went wrong, what went well, what was
Yeah,
the
but it could be a good shout for us. I mean, I'm going to be in Chicago. I don't know if you folks are going to KubeCon, but feels like a good place to just walk up to these people and be like, "Hey, great talk. How about doing an interview with us?" Like you could do it like if we were able to kind of like, or at least follow up with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we can queue up Saim, who's going to be at the booth, or he's going to have folks at the booth. I think he was mentioning that it's something like if we prep them, it's something that they could pitch. I mean, of course, I think in terms of you being there is very helpful because you'll know how to talk to these folks and go
Hopefully.
up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that'd be great.
I'll have
And
a look.
even
I'll have a look through the schedule then and see if there are any ones that look like, hey, here's this amazing stuff I did with my platform. And see if there's anyone that looks like a good target.
and to
And
expand. Oh, go ahead.
an alternative can be like if we are looking now at platform leaders and from there recruit the platform builders, what we're actually looking at is organizations, right? So we don't really want 8 different platform leaders. We want 8 different organizations with different roles in them, including platform leaders and builders. So maybe in the recruiting, we could just, put out a list of organizations where we know there was a successful implementation of a platform, and then actively, then we don't have to find a specific person. We just have to find some person from the organization that has contact to the platform team, pitch it to them, and then reach the platform leaders potentially over, 3 corners or something. So
I
if
like
we
that.
have a prepped list of organizations, that might help.
I like that you're coming up with our sales outreach plan.
I mean, I've got obviously a list of Pivotal now, I guess VMware Tanzu customers who've used Pivotal Cloud Foundry or are now using whatever the Tanzu platform is. But so my network will be lots and lots of big companies that have built internal platforms, but it's very biased because it's all people that have used Pivotal Cloud Foundry and or now using VMware Tanzu.
I was gonna say, that makes sense, but it can't be like everybody we talk to is just running off.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like I could like they're all like the big Fortune 500 companies, right? So I'd have roots into like all of those, but it's a biased sample set, right? Because it's all people that have used like Cloud Foundry.
But that's the point again, looking at the KubeCon contributions, for example, who is talking about a platform as a user, then we don't have to look at the role and say, oh, well, the talk would be great, but the role is not great. And we can still go to those people and say, hey, would your leaders be interested in, as an interview like that or in contributing?
It's very nice of the CNCF to have an entire platform engineering track at KubeCon because I can just filter by that and see all the companies that are doing talks on the platform engineering track. Which is wonderful.
I'm keeping track of notes and just like on the qualification stuff I put down. One of the things is let's make sure they're not all running off the same like packaged platform with the prescribed playbook, and it's just going to be a repetition of like how Pivotal says
They'll
to
all
build
have learned the same lessons, yeah.
all of the Giant Swarm customers that do the Giant Swarm platform.
So that's one thing we want to qualify for: diversity of kind of like approaches, or like making sure at least they're not running off the same thing. So to expand this idea further beyond KubeCon, should we look at other conferences, just other presenter series or groups where people have packaged this up and talked about it? Just kind of to open up that pipeline of possible folks.
I'm running Kubernetes Community Days UK next week.
Nice. Yes.
So I can have a look. I mean, I should know all the talks and all the speakers off the top of my head, right? But we've got 24 breakouts and 8 keynotes. So that's 32 talks. So I'll have a look and see if any of those are useful.
Are they all EU-based companies? Or let's say
No, I mean AWS are speaking, and
okay.
it's a mixture. I mean, ideally we focus on UK people. It's a local conference for local people.
Right. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, I guess AWS is like a cloud provider, but I mean
Yeah, yeah.
and
I'm just having a look who are speaking. It's a complete mixture, honestly.
I wonder. I was always interested on like the subtle, sometimes not so subtle differences between like European and like US approaches to certain things. Like especially in product, right? Like
Yeah.
Dominic, we're talking about like the history and like the background of where European product came from versus like how like East West Coast American like product development came from. So that I think plays out also in like approach where sometimes it's strategic, user centric, big vision, and sometimes it's not to like put those into like exhaustive camps, but sometimes it's very project management, like I'm executing on a game plan that I've been told. And it varies from company, so
my role at Pivotal was running the platform services for Europe team, right? So all the European companies that use Pivotal Cloud Foundry, like my team helped them set up platform, like built their internal platform with them for whatever 3 years. So like I've got
it's a mixed
many
bag of
more stories, but since this call is being recorded, I am not going to dive too deeply into some of those.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all have stories of the from company to company. What a world of a difference it makes.
Yeah.
The battles all.
It's pretty fun. I read your name a couple of times because I was a product owner for a Cloud Foundry instance a couple of years back. Well, 1 year back.
Interesting.
So that's fun now. Seeing the inside, so we have to stop the recording now. I can get some more gossip.
Possibly in-person conversation.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring up again, I know it's not CNCF, but the platform engineering community that is out there with the platform con and all that. They have a Slack channel and they have a platform leadership Slack channel with over 1,500 people. Those won't be all leaders, but at least it's a
good place to recruit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's not. I mean, they've done an incredibly good job at growing a community, and even within within their larger community, and I suspect within the leaders channel, they're not all Humanitech customers in the sense that they're not all going to be running off Humanitech. So I think like to our earlier worry about just
I guess a lot of the members of the community don't even know the relationship between Humanitech and the community.
They're very good at marketing. Okay, so I think that's like a brilliant idea of how we find folks. And I think, yeah, you're right. Even if we can get another end, like we find a product responsible person, maybe at a lower implementation level, but they're like, oh, but this is the person who kind of coordinated all this or like was responsible for the vision of our platform. Let me introduce you. That'd be great. The other thing is if we get to the leaders directly, just who on your team should we talk to, right? Like who are the people who worked on implementing this that were key to building the platform that we could interview. So there's going to be a lot of referral asking.
Have we thought about, I think we talked about this briefly last time about the idea of the case study, but have we thought about what's in it for them? like trying to put my sales hat on, right? If we're going to ask platform leader who's probably very, very busy and their time is precious, and we're going to ask them for time so they give us insights, what's in it for them?
Are you saying a $25 Amazon gift card's not going to cut it?
I mean, I'm just asking.
No, good, really good point. How compelling is it to be part of, there aren't too many things that are focused on like the strategic product side of doing this. What do you think is the value of them, of just getting their name out there or being mentioned as part of, like, we are noted as like a successful team that did this thing?
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, we pay people with exposure, whatever. But like,
Yeah,
for some people, that is a thing, right? If they could be associated and like they are credited with having provided insights, like that's
yeah,
valuable. I'm just thinking about how we do that, because in those outreach conversations, it's going to be like if I go up to someone at Coupon and say, "Great talk, we'd love to interview you because we want to do this like put together this research for this white paper." There needs to be some carrot in there.
no, for
And
sure.
so I'm just thinking how to have that, how to frame that conversation, and been like, and we'd love to like obviously credit you and your company, and then it will be like referenced on the CNCF blog, or like pay, like I don't know, like just trying to sell like a little set of like how they will gain influence from doing the work.
Yeah, like, so I
You
guess one of the, oh,
you brought up a good idea in our last discussion or our last talk, which was the case study that we could do as a like follow-up of the interview. That could also be something where we could say, we have a like a dedicated case study or something, which is definitely some sort of advertisement,
That's the thing. Like if you can publicize, like for them, drive eyeballs to their website, like anything that's, you know, something to give them a kickback.
do you think so? When you say their website, if they're not like some sort of platform provider,
But like if they're like let's say I'm building the internal platform for KFC, right?
Mhm.
And I need to tell my boss that I'm going to spend an hour of my day doing this interview. And how do I convince my boss that it's worth it? Well, it's going to do an advert. It's going to show like the amazing engineering practice. There's going to be a case study written that will highlight the amazing engineering practices of KFC, which maybe then helps with recruitment. Maybe it helps with I don't know, like
adoption
marketing,
rate.
etc. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
depends if
I
it's
mean,
a on the
I
type of
think we can
business,
put
but
together, you're right. I think we could put together a blurb. Like, we'll mention obviously the company, we'll mention you and your team, and then to justify it for them, right? Like,
yeah,
this is, like, you're recognized as building, as quote unquote successful platform within the range of what
yeah,
we define as success, recruitment, morale for the team, like
yeah,
recognition for the
yeah,
team that worked on it. I think for an hour of your time, maybe some follow up, however we play that, I think that's pretty good payoff,
yeah.
especially
It's just
against,
framing
like,
it, right?
yeah, exactly. It's, it's a check mark of credibility, right? Um, but also, who can't take an hour off work that they have to justify to their boss? I don't want to work.
I don't know. Some people like just, thinking of a customer we're working with right now, which is like they're all everything's on fire all of the time.
Ah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Those are majority of my customers.
so you're a bit like everything's on fire all the time. Like what? I
It
don't know how
doesn't
you
have,
prioritize anything, right?
doesn't have to be, but it is. But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
Everybody
right.
makes it more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah. But
Um,
that's what we're going to be fighting, right? Inertia. People are find it hard to be like, okay, I will give you my time to do this thing.
but here's the thing. Let me ask you this: is that not a disqualifier? If you're working right now at a place where your team is reflexive and fighting fires all the time, it doesn't sound like you work in a good, like, product platform culture. You're not, it doesn't sound like you're building anything good. I mean, you as a vendor with a product and a consulting practice to help them do these things as part of that journey makes sense, but they're
Yeah.
not there on their
No.
own.
No, exactly. It's only if we think there's value. So the kind of people who are, so for example, the kind of people talking to us are at least thinking that they know that there must be a better way. So
Yeah.
therefore they are thinking about there must be a better way. and therefore like they maybe have the right mindset, they just are trying to figure out how to get there. So you're right, for our criteria maybe they haven't yet they haven't gone like through the other side and they haven't reached the success, but they might have insights on like what they're trying to do or what's failed. I don't know if we want to gather that. Otherwise, you're right, those people that their hair is on fire, they're not for us.
Yeah, I guess for this project specifically, the case for why we wouldn't want to talk to those people is, when I think of like them having the right mindset, it could be that they are aware, yes, there has to be a better way. We've seen people talking about a better way. It can't be as painful as we're doing it with all our false starts, or like the inability to like meaningfully and consistently do this kind of work. But like the unknown unknowns for them in that process, like the things they've just never been exposed to in terms of how you approach work in this product minded way, is new, right? That is the difference maker, why they can't do this, more than like skill sets around Kubernetes, like concrete skill sets around implementation. So I think that's like the world of difference with like why we wouldn't want to talk to those people, because they're not thinking in that way. And so they can't, like, they can tell us maybe some things they've done accidentally, but I don't know if intentionally they can tell us like, we've met, like, yeah, we thought this through, like obviously we have clear goals, and here is like a reasonable game plan of how we migrate in like to this thing, or like maintain these services, focus on specific apps. There's like planning and thought in this. Yeah, so that'd be my,
Okay.
I guess, why.
No, you're
I
right.
mean,
We want people that are seeing success with their platform, so therefore they should be able to free up an hour to have a chat with us. And we still need to sell it to them as like why it's beneficial to them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and that's the thing. Like if we want to talk to the people who are kind of past that point, like they've made the decision to invest, and they feel the teams around it, and they've have a game plan, and they've been at it, and they've had successes, right? At this point, they're like continuing the journey, extending the platform, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are teams that are, obviously, in the bell curve of things. There's like not as many of them.
No.
I think we defined it already in the goal paper that we want to achieve, or that we want to reach companies that are in the last two maturity states of the platform journey, right? From like referencing our maturity model. The like not the provisional and operational one, the optimized, and I should read that paper a bit more closely.
The scaled and optimized.
Yeah.
Scaled and optimized, that's the
No,
two. And I
I
think that
in our,
shows
I added that back. I made it explicit in our research
okay.
plan doc, because our audience is the provisional operation, right? Our audience is exactly the people that like I work with, and like Paula works with, and I mean, I guess you guys work with as well. The ones we all work with, right? They're the ones who are like, there has to be a better way. How the hell do we get there? So so that, that's why it's going to be, I mean, that's the part I want to think through, like how do we qualify the scaled and optimized? And so like as a next kind of concrete step, I just want to work through that. Like I'm going to start in a working doc. I'll share it with you. Maybe we just keep it, like it'll be an open link, but we'll keep it the working doc amongst ourselves, or anybody who wants to like actively contribute, before we open up to people who just want to like review a thing that's already kind of there. And then around that is, I've added notes, and I'll send this out after. Around that is, what are we offering them in return? Where do we find these people? Whether it's builders to get to leaders, or leaders and then get the builders from them. So the ideal would be to paint that story from multiple vantage points. That would be the best, if we can interview the leaders and the builders of the platform in the same companies. The best insights are there. And then recruitment beyond that. We talked about just reaching out to any community, like anybody who's already self-identified, as Paula said, that like, hey, we're building a successful platform. Look at our platform. Let's talk to those people, at least, qualify that it makes sense for us to talk to them.
Are we at the point, just like I say, because opportunistically, next week I'm doing KCD UK, so I can see who's
Yes.
is speaking, and then 2 weeks time is Chicago, so I can go and have a look around and identify some targets. Are we at the point of now of at least like sounding people out? I mean, like, hey, we're working with this group within the CNCF platforms working group. We're trying to do some research. Would you be interested in giving us some time? We'll come back
Yes.
and tell you what actually is involved.
Yeah. It can't hurt to like develop that like
Start
pipeline.
warming them up.
Yeah, because we can flesh out like we'll get more nuanced with what's what on our end of who we want to talk to and how we want to talk to them. But it can't hurt to kind of get them interested now as soon as we can.
Okay.
Because I kind of started fielding it around informally with folks that I know are building platforms at places. Just like, hey, we're working on this thing, not now, but soonish.
Yeah, not now, but soon. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we're there.
Okay.
We have like directionally, we know where we want to go with this and who we want to talk to. So just got to build the things. And then what else? What else is top of mind for you both?
So if we go for the more direct recruiting, what's the story with the survey? Do we
I knew
still
you'd bring
want
that
to
up.
do it?
That's still, we talked about it on Tuesday a little bit in the platform group. Yeah. Is the survey a separate project to do like the beginning of this like longitudinal snapshot study of like how mature is what do platforms look like in the industry, like a snapshot of maturity that can be done kind of year over year or whatever, which was kind of what Josh and Abby were talking about. That's separate from this project, just like around platforms as a whole. Or is this something that can serve this paper specifically to reinforce the insights we get, to your point, Dominic, to like reinforce the insights we get from the qualitative interviews with like a little more breadth.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, as we have it right now with the main focus being recruiting, I feel we will be more effective with the, directly talking to people. So I think that goal is not worth the effort creating a survey and sending it around. The second goal, as you said, might be something interesting, no? But also the question, might it be interesting now or like later? And I
that's
think with the size of the group that we have currently here, it might be better to focus on the interview for now, and then see if we can, get some good plan for the survey later.
Yeah, I think once the machinery of this project gets going, if at some point we decide like, hey, we want to disseminate a survey more widely, just for the sake of what we can learn through a survey, and not as a means of qualifying people we want to talk to, we have way more time to do that if that's something we decide, right? Like through CNCF, through all these groups, we can get it out pretty wide pretty quickly. If it's not a means of recruiting.
Yeah.
I don't know if Abby mentioned it, but one of the things that so me and a couple of other folks put a proposal in for Paris to do a co-located event for KubeCon Paris, sorry, next year, which is March, to do a co-located event on the topic of basically platform as a product. Now, the the chances of it being accepted, I'd say right now, I feel like maybe 50-50. I don't actually know. But anyway, we submitted it, and that could be because I know that the platform maturity model, they want to have it announced for KubeCon Chicago, right? So they're announcing it like imminently, and then they'll publicize it at Chicago. I didn't know if what the timeline that you're thinking about for kind of the platform as a product white paper is. But if there's a secondary goal for the quantitative survey, and if we were to get like a half-day Colo event at Paris, which is focused on platform and product management of platform. It could be that we put together the quantitative survey for Paris, and then if we end up with 200 people in a room who are there to talk about platform and product, hit them with a survey as they're sitting in the room, right? Like there could be like a second goal that just comes a bit later.
Well, that's what I mean. Like that is one specific tactic for getting respondents, but I think we have like plenty of like just going online,
Broad,
getting
yeah.
people in person, getting, you know, other like regional groups to spread it in their communities. There's plenty of those, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
through Kubernetes communities and just DevOps communities. So like that's always something in our back pocket we can do later. And it's going to be, and that's something that's still worth doing. I think like we should keep track of this, right? There should be this like effort to do the snapshot through CNCF. But I don't know if it's like, I don't want it to get in the way of what our actual goal with this paper is. So, you know, as Dominic was saying, like, is it worth the effort? Is there enough value for what we want from the qualitative stuff? So yeah, and actually for the co-located event, so you submitted a topic to Paris to do a
To do a co-located event. So we had the idea. So we the Syntasso, we have been thinking for a while, because obviously we've been talking about platform product management for quite some time. And so we had the idea that we'd like to run an event, and then with one thing and another, we were like, it would be actually quite nice to do it because Kubernetes KubeCon Europe is in Paris, which is easy for us to get to. We were like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we could tie it in with that? And then we spoke to some other people. So we ended up submitting, and we talked to a few other companies, and we're like, do you know what? Let's just put together something. We spoke to CNCF, and we're like, we wanted to propose this. We don't want it to clash with, because the CNCF are now doing a full track on platform engineering, right? There's a whole track that is platform engineering, but KubeCon style tends to be much more about tooling, CNCF tooling to help you do your platform engineering.
Yeah.
Right? What we philosophically wanted to do was a Colo event that doesn't clash with that. It isn't about tooling. It's much more around the topics that we're talking about, right? Like product management, holistic platform building, tying it in with the platform maturity model, the platform's white paper, and this work to be like, let's get people in the room who are thinking about this, who are thinking about how a platform drives success, thinking about what good looks like for a platform, and sharing their stories. So it's not aimed at, oh, this tool does this thing. It's more like, we put together our platform using this. These are the metrics that we're doing. And ideally, in my mind at least, I had this idea of like, because it's only going to be, even if it gets accepted, it's a half day. But my idea was like, you look at the maturity model and how it's got like the different aspects, and ideally you'd get somebody standing on stage talking about how they tackled each of the aspects. Like it'd be a very nice curated set of talks if you had someone talking about platform product management, and you had someone talking about platform adoption, how they drive that, and developer experience, and you had someone talking about how they internally fund it and how they measure success. Like you could curate that set of talks to kind of cover all the broad aspects of what platform success, what we think of platform success is. Anyway, I had this whole vision about how this event could go. And then
that's great.
Have written this proposal. Like I say, I feel like it's maybe 50-50. I don't know. If it gets accepted, then it's exciting, because then we could think about like, we'll open a CFP and there'll be a committee, and we can like I was thinking like just seeing how we can like we all can all like help to curate that content and all of that, right? It could be amazing. But I also feel like Colo events are in high demand. This might feel to the CNCF committee a little hand wavy, and therefore not tool focused, which might then not fit with the vibe of KubeCon.
They don't have producty strategy minded, how we build a platform, people in that committee. I mean, you know, if platform working group is thinking about it, I imagine there's some representation of that thinking there. Hopefully then it gets accepted, because this is, you can talk about tools all day long, and tools obviously have their place, and it's, you know, there are very good conversations to have there, but tools don't make or break building a platform. Like a tool won't get you success.
100%.
Also, additionally, I think it
Wire.
fits to the trend of KubeCon. It shifts more and more away from the technical perspective to a more product focus, right? So far that I actually put in a CFP, or I will put in a CFP with a product focus. Hi Puya.
Hey.
And he
Hey.
reviewed it.
I did.
So yeah, I think I think there's like maybe 60-40 as a chance, because it fits more to the trend of the product focus, because I feel like the local Kubernetes community days, those tend to become more technical, while the KubeCon itself tends to become, because the C-level people now also go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Like I say, we flung the proposal in. The decisions are next week, so we'll find out next week if it gets accepted, and then if it does, like, like, like I almost threw it in. Like I did. I spoke to a few people. Obviously, Abby, because we worked together, and then we spoke to a few other kind of community people, and then we just answered the proposal form and sent it in. And I feel like if it does get accepted, then I will get really excited about trying to create this like amazing content of, like I say, like all platform success thing. Like it could be really, really good, actually. If it doesn't get accepted, then I don't know.
If it doesn't get accepted, let's say, does anybody know about the let's say the bureaucracy of the stuff? Like, is it still possible to get some sort of focus on like the product side of
I mean,
of platform, what we're doing?
The CFP for Paris is open now. So if you wanted to submit a talk about the work that this group is doing, you could submit that like right now.
Directly for the like main
For
stage.
the main conference, you could submit a talk right now that is what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and like etc. CFP closes 26th of November, I think, for Paris.
Yeah.
The CFP for running colos has closed already for 2024. It's closed already. And then Abby's probably better to answer the kind of how the different tags also get project hours at a KubeCon, because I don't know too much about that, but they do. So like if you wanted to try and do something around that, but I don't really know how that works.
Yeah, there would be two ways basically to, like, I mean, there's three ways to get it in, or maybe even four. Like one would be a normal talk, right? Or normal CFP submission. Then there is like maintainer track, basically, which is kind of SIG meetings and these kind of things, and tags can be there. Then some tags, I think we have this in Chicago too with the tag app delivery, you can get a pre-day, a room for the pre-day. Like I think we have half a day in Chicago now. So it's similar to a colo, but you don't have to organize sponsors and all these things for a colo, which is nice. CNCF gets to pay a little bit for that, and you get some drinks and snacks at least, and a room, and maybe recording equipment, and the fourth, I'm not sure if that works for all kind of tags. That works for 6 is like being part of the contributor summit and getting a room within that, like. But I'm not sure if like a CNCF tag can be in the Kubernetes contributor summit, because it's like different levels or so.
And additionally, there's a special form of a talk in Paris, which is this poster form, right?
Oh, really? Did they add that?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know how hard they want to drive this, but you can just have a talk, like a normal talk, but then in a poster form where you just present some research or stuff that you do. I didn't really. Joe explained it to me, but like barely.
I mean, it's like the academic kind of.
Yeah, I've seen more of that just pop up Like we couldn't, you didn't make the cut for stage time or a room, but like we'll put you with 20 other posters in the corner.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wonder how that works. I mean, it works really well at academic conferences, but I'm not sure if like KubeCon folk are used to that kind of format.
But to the original point, Paul, I think like
Mhm.
any way we can get any of this work in, whether it's like the half day, a co-located event, room or stage time at the conference itself, which means there's more pressure to actually get this done.
Yes, it does.
Because it will really be embarrassing if like, well, we didn't get to talk to anybody or synthesize any of it, and it's just our own thoughts. Can we present our own thoughts, please?
I think if we can also ask just I could ask Chris from CNCF like how like because we're tagged, we're a work group within CNCF here, right? So getting some slot should usually not be a problem, right? Any SIG can do that. Like any project gets a project hour, right? They get even two. They get usually like a birds of a feather or an advanced one and a beginner one. Getting one for a work group should somehow be possible. Maybe it's just not been a case before, so there's no like right way right now to officially hand it in, but I cannot imagine that it's not like it should be possible even without having to go through a CFP process that much.
Okay.
I can try to ask Chris and ask him if like what
Can
would
you
be the
gauge,
expected.
what our options are with this and where we need to be before we submit to clinic, and then
And
the
I mean it's super important topic. It's a really sexy topic right now. I mean,
it does have that appeal.
I mean,
okay.
Coming down to the initial point, right? We like the survey. So it feels like we are all on a track to have the survey not now, but focus on the interviews now and then do the survey potentially added on later.
Yeah. I think that's the way we're going. Add it on later, or worst case, we just prep it for the conference. Like that would be the worst case, and then we get a lot of exposure and a lot of people to fill it out.
I mean, it also might help us do a better survey because then we have some points from the interviews that we can put to a survey to get, quantitative metrics on that.
Yep. So in terms of kind of next steps, I'm gonna open up a doc. It will be blank when you look at it, probably, depending on when I get around to it. But that will be the beginning of our one doc on the qualification. What are the markers? Maturity model as part of a reference, but also we need to get a little more practical with like how do we qualify scaled and optimized teams, people who've built successful platforms. We'll map out like our outreach there to what Paula was saying, the easy, obvious place to look. Well, let's not say easy. The obvious place to look is folks who are self-identified, who've packaged this up, who are presenting about their work at their companies.
End user community.
Yes, and there's a community, and we'll just as many communities as we can hit up to see what they're doing and who those folks might be, or even we'll craft like a general blurb we can put out into community for referrals. So we'll map out our outreach strategy, and then in qualifying criteria, and then separate from that, another doc on starting to create the makings of what the kind of the leader script and the builder script is going to look like, right? With the idea that we talk to the leader and a few builders, or at least one who was intimately involved in actually executing on the platform in the same organizations, right? So we can get a more rounded insight into what actually happened, bottom up and top down.
So like interview guideline.
Exactly. Like, we'll start with like what are the interview guidelines? Like it will be the next step to like we've outlined research aims and goals. Next step is get more granular with what the purpose of each of these scripts for each of these kind of personas is, and then start to build it out. And we can start that part async, and then this meeting is meant to run like every 2 weeks, gives us enough time to put work together and then like review it live on the call. Next time the call should be more focused on like the tangibles of what we're actually doing. So we can really focus in with that hour that we have. By then I hope we have things of some scripts and definitely a decently clear plan on how we're going to find people and qualify them.
Yeah, if we want to get to the current end user community, I can ping Taylor, who's head of ecosystem at CNCF. He's basically leading all efforts towards the current end user community. And he would be able to then give us interview partners within the current community there. He's offered that before to me, so shouldn't be a biggie.
These aren't just vendors, right? These are companies working on
no, it's no vendors. It's only the end user members.
Actual end user group. Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah, it's this website, the one with the here.
I mean, looking at us, we are the vendors, right?
Yeah, so it would be basically yeah, the full list is in the landscape here. So it's 152 end user members right now. And that's just the ones that are registered and members of the CNCF.
I mean, we should have, no shortage of companies we can start to pretty quickly focus in on. Then it's the, to what Paula was saying, reaching out, seeing how excited they are, and then telling them how awesome this would be for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else top of mind? Got 7 minutes left. Okay.
We have no reviews on our goal. So I guess everything's perfect.
Yeah, somehow I get the distinct feeling that not many people have taken a look.
Yeah, I didn't get around to it yet, but I will next week. I promise.
Yeah, the
Just
delta
back after KubeCon and vacation.
Yeah, I mean, no worries. But yeah, the delta between people who are like interested on the periphery and say this is great and interesting work, and then like show up as still not where we want it. It'd be nice to. I mean, I think we're forming a core group of people who keep showing up every time, and that's. I mean, I'm super happy.
Yeah,
if we get more along the way, we recruit people as like we start producing work and people jump in, which usually happens, then great.
Yeah, and the other work is finishing up right now. So the maturity model, as that is kind of being finalized, maybe like some free resources from that can spill over into this group.
Yeah, and it doesn't block our recruiting efforts, right? So we can now focus on the recruiting as the next step and how we get people on board, and keep the goals open for further review. Maybe do another shout out next week or something.
Yeah, and just post this out real quick if you don't have this. If everybody can bookmark this somewhere or whatever you use to save links. Everything I've been talking about, I'm going to link at the top of this one doc. So we just have one way into all the work. We don't have to go looking for links. It'll just be a bunch of related and nested Google Docs. So and then we can, once we get these pieces in place and we start having these conversations, I think that, I put in a timeline link, just something. I always find it helpful to have like a visual. Here's how many weeks you have and how much work you have, and like how is this actually meaningful play out? Because it's super easy to lose track of like how much time you actually have. So we can start mapping out like, can we hit the goal we want to hit by mid-January? Yeah, so I'll link everything in here, and then I'll also I've been keeping notes for this one. I'll add that link in here as well, so people can look back to see what we talked about, like end user group links and all that good stuff. All right. I mean, how's everybody feel about all this grand work that we're about to undertake?
I'm excited. And I joined late, but I'm still very excited, and I think it's exactly what is needed. I gave a bit of a product related platform talk at KubeCon China, and the feedback was like, hey, I want to show this to my manager. And it was exactly the feedback I wanted, right? It's like this is exactly what you want from like a platform as product thing. Is like getting the managers on your side, getting buy-in, and getting actual support to say like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. And here's the proof because we have research, right? It's like,
Yeah, some people won't listen until you have that proof point. But yeah, to that point, even just talking about this casually, like the intent of this and the product focus, and just surfacing some of the facets of kind of product thinking, kind of gets the same response. It's like, oh, this is the stuff we're grappling with. Like that's the stuff people say. It's like these are the active questions we're trying to figure out. Sometimes we can't even articulate like what the thing is, what the problem is. All right, great. So I'll create all those links. I'll add them in when everybody has time to kind of pop in and start adding. I'll do the same, and then we can just chat through Slack and maybe in comments or directly editing the docs. I'll just make it an open link for now so anybody can edit, and then we'll close it later. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you around then.
See
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.